Hi, welcome to A Watchman's Journal. I'm Diana Larkin. I have another smashing interview to bring to you today with John Redenbow of Dream Life Decoded and Ash West, the dreamer from the UK. And we are here to do Walk Out the Dream Part 2. If you haven't watched the first one, you might want to go back and do that before you launch into Part 2. We have two more dreams to go over. And also, Ash is going to begin by sharing some responses that we heard to our first video that came out last week. So, Ash, John, welcome. Thank you for joining me again today.
Always good to be here, Diana. Hey, Ash.
Hey, John. Hey, Diana. Lovely to be with both of you. Again, it's family
Yes,
every time we come together. So I just love being here with you guys.
I feel the same way. All right. Why don't you start out, Ash, and tell us some responses that you got?
Yes. So last week, again, as Diana referred to, part one of Walking Out the Dream, we had a word of knowledge that come through as I was sharing the dream. As it did, I called out a particular lady. I gave a description of her and what she would do when she would call out for a particular scripture, Proverbs 25. Now, we've had not one, not two, but we've had three ladies send us an email in saying that that was them. I know two of them have stated, clarified who they were, and then said that they've had a corresponding dream the following night, which is fantastic. And again, it's blessing. And this is something that I'm training to do, to be obedient. And once I'm obedient, even though I don't understand, you share what the Lord's put in on you, whether it's again vision or whether you're hearing the words or seeing image imprint, shall we say, then you just go with that. When you go with that, you get rewarded. And this is a blessing for me because I get to hear the testimonies of how the Lord is loving on these women and proving to them that He is there with them. So I just want to read just one of them. I'm not going to share her name. I don't have permission to do so, but I will read the beginning bit of what she sent. So she said, I listened to you last evening when you were on with John and Diana about crossover dreams. When you mentioned the woman listening who is in her early to mid 60s with brunette hair and glasses, not only did I know immediately in my spirit it was me, but so did my husband. I am 63 years old with brunette hair and wear glasses to read and for work. I prayed into Proverbs 25, verse 2. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings is to search things out. I was amazed and awed by the revelation knowledge the Lord gave me. The Lord told me that when we bring it to the King of Kings, Lord Jesus, He will reveal His truth. God the Father conceals a matter, and when we seek Jesus Christ, we are given His truth. Now, she goes on to explain that everything that she's going through right now in a personal relationship, she's in a massive, massive transition period at the moment, going from a 30 plus year experience in one trade of teaching to now walking in her healing calling and then teaching people who Jesus is, how He loves them by how He heals them through her. So I just wanted to share this. And again, it's not about me. This is glorifying God, but it's showing you. Doesn't matter if you have a title, doesn't matter if you're a young kid, anybody in between, your position in society, you are loved so much that the Father decided that He would give Himself, a part of Himself for you to die so He could have you back where you belong. So whenever you feel I'm not worth it, I've made too many mistakes, I can't hear from the Lord, I'm not a prophet or a pastor or apostle, whatever. You might not be those things, you might not have the title, but you have one thing, And that's the Father's heart for you.
Mhm.
And he values that more than anything else. So don't believe the lie. Don't believe the emotions that cause the lie. Believe that you are loved and cherished. And from that foundation, the sacrifice, the love of Jesus Christ that he demonstrated, everything, including yourself, can be built up. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. And thank you for sending those emails in. Thank you so much.
That is very encouraging to hear those testimonies that came in, Ash, because we are all being used by the Lord, whether we realize it or not, in just our everyday lives. You know, you might just be prompted to smile at somebody in a store, and it's like, it doesn't mean that much to you, but you just saved their life. I mean, we're just about believing that there was no good left in the world, and the love of Jesus came through your smile and touched their heart. So nothing is too big or too small to obey a prompting from Holy Spirit, who brings life and truth to us. So, well, let's launch into your other two dreams, which we called walking out the dream. And then John gave us the actual term, which is crossover dream. So let's hear your other two crossover dreams, and we'll take a few notes and see what we can come up with.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's again, just to let you know, the date was the 17th of this month, and it was at 8:45 a.m. UK time. So here we go. I am in a dark hall or sports hall with a stage at the opposite end with the stage lights on. I am stood at the back of the hall and I see 3 aisles of seats. The seats are made of cheap plastic, had no armrests, and were brown. It's a small place. I walk to my left and I can hear a violinist playing some beautiful music with other musicians. I am not focused on the stage. I continue to walk along the back wall, along the aisles of seats, and get to the far left. I am walking down that row, and the same woman from the shop is a couple of rows in. She is sat in a chair with 3 to 4 children. I have this urge. I want to love. I'll say it again. I have this urge, want, and love in me. I want to sit with them. I want to protect them. I want to love on all of them. I want to provide for all of them. I want to be with all of them. And that's the end of the dream.
Wow,
That's amazing.
that is amazing. I feel like this is an actual place. Just like the street was an actual street and the coffee shop was an actual place. So this is like, sounds almost like a theater, but a small one.
Hmm.
With the stage. Is that how you would describe it?
So yeah, I would say it's not a professional place like a it's made for a theater, for productions or anything. I would say it's more school kind of looking, like a sports hall that's been made into a stage for a performance. That's what I would say, is because again, I mean, I saw a sports hall. It was like a dark hall or a sports hall. So there was this crossover between it not being a professional theater, but it being a low production, small place.
What's the
That's
sports
been
hall?
adapted. So it's like you would have a building that's made for indoor sports, so like badminton, basketball, indoor soccer,
Boxing?
things, boxing, yeah, things like that. Yeah, anything you could do, trampolining, things like that.
Okay. So you're standing in the back and you see the stage at the opposite end.
Mhm.
And is there anything you remember about I know you said you weren't focused on the stage. Do you see anything going on the stage? Is that where the violinist is? Do you have any idea?
Yeah. So I remember, it's her that stands out to me. So I got a quick flash image of her, and it's a young girl. Again, it's a young girl. I would say no more than 15, 16 years old. She is chin positions, has the violin, and she's looking up, like raising the violin up, and is obviously going through a note as she's playing it. But it's a still. It's not movement. It's just that pose there. And I know there's other kids or younger people there that have got different instruments. But I can't recall seeing them or them having flashes of their individual images as well.
Could
But
it
I know
be
they're there.
could it be like a recital? Like,
To me, I don't think it was a recital. I
okay,
feel this was more of a performance,
okay,
as it like not a performance like a I don't know, like a stage performance, but more like I wouldn't say it was worship music, but I would say it's honoring the way that she played it. I could hear it, and even though I didn't address it in the dream, I was like, "That's so beautiful. That's talent. That's so beautiful." And I felt it. I felt the love, the passion,
mhm.
and the talent that was coming out of the player. Um, so to me, if I'm going to say anything, it leans more towards the side of worship because it has that honoring element in it. That's the best way I can describe it.
Okay, interesting. So you see 3 rows or 3 aisles, right?
Yes,
Was that all there was, or was that all you were focused on?
that's all there was. So 3 columns or 3 sections, and then there's a walkway in between each one going down, and I'm walking at the back, going from right to left along the wall. So I have the wall to my left, and I have the rows of seats to my right.
Cheap seats, brown, small place, plastic. So yeah, just kind of like make do whatever they had kind of a deal versus like
Yes,
stadium style seating or anything like that. Okay, interesting.
spot on.
Um, well, the violinist is certainly an interesting character. It's a girl, 15 to 16 years old. You just saw her for a second. Do you feel like she's related to this woman and her kids?
See, now this is the thing. They both have this same similar hair. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar, as in like the color, the kind of curliness to it is similar. But I can't confirm that they're related or anything at all. But that is the similarity, is the hair. If she had a position, the hair to her would have been her right. Um, and me looking down at the women, looking at her from the shop at window again, it's very similar. But are they related? I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's fascinating that God all in a decode of a dream will give us details that you can then go back and ask the dreamer, and then they're like, there was some similarity there.
Mm,
Because that's what I felt. I felt there was a connection between this girl. Kind of an odd question, but I felt like they were there for her, like she was the
mm,
big sister or something.
yeah.
Which just, if this is literal and if this is talking about a particular person, it just provides more data points for us to be able to connect and see, to say this is this. You know, I'm always, and I shouldn't be, but I'm a lot of times surprised at the level of specificity that God speaks.
Mhm.
Like I've told you guys the story of how somebody had a dream they were with Trump at a school, and I said, was it your school? And they said no. And I interpreted the dream and hung up, and God said, well, why didn't you find the school? And I'm like, well, there was nothing to go on. This lady said it wasn't her school. He said, well, who else was there? Well, Trump. And then silence. And I'm like, well, where did Trump go to school? Well, he went to school in 2 different brick buildings. And I sent her the pictures, and she's kind of looked like the second one, but I only saw the back, and it had a green carport and it had a red door and it had. So I got on Google Earth and I went, again, when you treat dreams like intelligence, you'll go the extra mile to like, how can I get a shot of the back of Trump School in New York, you know? And so you go or walk around the block and then face the back of the school. There's a green carport, there's a red door. I take a picture, I send it to her, and she absolutely freaks out. Oh my gosh, that's real. That place is
Wow.
real. You know, and so it's interesting that if the place is real, there's things that we've learned about the dialects of God. God can speak figuratively and literally at the same time in a dream. But it's not like he gives you, you know, you're riding a unicorn holding on to a great white shark with Trump. And then people are like, well, I know I'm supposed to work with Trump. Okay, so the only part that could have possibly had any literal sense, you're going to take as literal, and clearly everything else is figurative. Like God doesn't like necessarily change dialects midstream unless he warns you first, you know. And so we've seen that where somebody is talking about newspaper headlines and we find those headlines are fake news. These are the lies that they're going to tell us. And then they start talking about gargoyles flying down and picking people up and aliens ripping the tops off buildings and vacuuming the money out of bank vaults. And we're like, okay, this is clearly figurative. It's a transfer of wealth, or it's a massive amount of a spirit of fear, but it's a different dialect than when he's talking to you in headlines. You know, and so these are part of the nuances of decoding the language of God, which again is why dream dictionaries are rarely helpful, when what you just need to do is you need to be able to hear the voice of God. And when you get this unction, I feel like there's a connection between the 15, 16-year-old violinist on the left and the family. And then you ask and you're like, you know, their hair was very similar, you know, so we see that as a confirmation.
Wow.
Did you get a good view?
Go ahead, John.
Did you get a better view of the woman this time than you did the last time?
No.
Just
So
the
you
back
realize-
still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was more of a rear side view. Like I'm going down the aisle and I haven't quite got to sideways with her to turn and look at her. I'm kind of behind looking at her and she's looking at the stage. She's not focused on me. She's looking at the stage. So.
Well, it's super interesting. Go ahead, Diana.
Well, I was just going to say, no problem. Ash will spend the next 6 months looking at the back of every woman in the UK, you know. Okay, I'm John with what you were going to say.
Well, it's interesting because we had several people, you know, call or write in and say, I felt like the person was me. But it was also interesting that we felt that there may be a connection between you and that woman. There may be a relational component there, possibly. Not that it's the thus says the Lord thing, but there was a sense that God was going to reveal who that was. And so the people that called in and their husband confirmed it was them, it wasn't them, at least in regards to that sense.
Yeah.
Now, God can be talking about two different people or two different situations at the same time. That's a double entendre. We've seen 7 layers plus in a dream before. So it could be, yes, it could be this lady who needed confirmation that she was being disrespected and needed to walk away. Absolutely could be that. We're glad it spoke to you. We don't take anything away from how God spoke to you and confirmed it with 2 people on the basis of 2 or 3 witnesses. A matter is firmly decided. Ash being the third one because he was the one that had the dream. So there you have 3 witnesses. But also there being another layer of this being somebody that Ash may or may not have a friendship or something with. I thought it was interesting, your feelings at the end, how you wanted to. And it was funny when you were sharing, when you were reading the dream, you were like, I just wanted to love that. I mean, I wanted to, like, you couldn't wait to get out the word love. And then you kind of backpedaled and you're like, I mean, I want to just sit by them and protect them and love them as well.
Do this mushy dushy stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Very, very British of you to backpedal on the love word.
I love you. What did
Winston
you say?
would be proud. But I think it's interesting. That's why I asked, because I'm like, are we closer to identifying who she was? Well, clearly it looks like she has kids or she's a nanny. It looks like she may have a daughter that's a violinist that plays at a certain place. So when you find yourself in a sports hall looking event with a young violinist, make sure you walk up to her and say, "Hey, who's your mom?
Where's your mum?
I got a divine appointment. Is your mom married? And where is she? I got a divine appointment." But you said 3 or 4 children, so this would be 5 with a 15-year-old. So you got your hands full if that's the case. Just saying.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. The same woman at the shop. Were you able to identify that by sight, or was that a knowing? I just know that it's her, even though I can't get a clear view of her.
This is the best way I can describe it. 80% knowing, the rest seeing the outline, the back, the side of her. So it was that knowing it was her more than anything else. Yeah.
So why didn't you yell out, "My dream girl"?
Because I'm not capable of doing it. I'm not you, and I'm not other people like Peggy or Diana that have that particular gift that they can go, I can actually, do a Neo here and become the Matrix and turn things into the way I want them. I'm not there yet.
Wow. Well, I think it's interesting. I think it certainly can mean the idea of God is showing you your desire to protect. And, I think there's a lot of generalization stuff, but I feel honestly like that would be fluffy.
Yeah.
To go into that. I feel like the first 2 dreams, this is so real feeling that I feel like it is literal. And the question is, why is God telling you this? Why is he telling you this now? Who's the girl? Is she single? And how many kids does she have? Count the cost, brother. Count the cost.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really interesting that there is a reason that God is showing you this now, and it may be revealed further down the road. It may be a time. Was it you that sent me? I get so much email that I forget a lot of times. Who sent that? I don't know if it was you or somebody else had sent me a situation that happened, and then it happened a while back, and then they walked into a situation that was exactly like this dream that they had years ago, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is that." And it was just like a dream fragment. But the one thing that it hammered home is, I'm so glad I wrote down this fragment of a dream, because I remembered it almost like it was a dream. I looked it up, and there it was. And the scene unfolded exactly as was described in this tiny little fragment of a dream. Was that you, or was that somebody else?
That was someone else. That's
Okay.
someone else that took the initiative on that one. However,
Wow.
I can say that recently, very, very recently, this has happened with me. I've had a dream about a bobcat in a shower in a bathroom with my housemate screaming at me, calling my name. I get out of bed, I go in through the hallway, get into the bathroom, the door closes behind me, and I'm speaking authoritatively to the bobcat that is kind of the cat, and also like Buffy that you guys see. She's swiping, hissing, growling. Then eventually she calms down after I speak, and then she hops out of the bathtub, like rubs up, brushes up against my leg. The door opens, and I walk out with her. 2 weeks later on, this in regards to a confrontation with the landlady, with my housemate, with myself, going over where are we going to home the 2 girls. It's all this dream. It was the heads up dream from the Lord that said, this is going to happen. I'm warning you about it. So you need to pay attention. And when it happened, when it started happening, and I even was on a phone call with the landlord, and she even said to me what I got out of the dream, that I was the mediator. I was the man in the middle, going to bring the peace and negotiate the peaceful terms for a peaceful exit. She on the call said to me, I feel like you are the man in the middle. You were caught in the middle of this, and I feel that you have a part to play to bring restoration and peace. She said that.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
So again, another live example of exactly what
Yes.
John is saying.
I love
Yeah.
that example of treasuring even the dream fragments,
Mhm.
because you just don't know when they're going to show up and be important in your life.
Yeah.
I realized just before I was getting ready to send you guys the Zoom link, I realized I have had 2 crossover dreams in my life that I remember, and I just didn't know what to call them or what.
Mhm.
But to the day, a year before I interviewed Barry Wunsch and Wanda Alger, I had a dream that I was interviewing them. Okay, I wasn't interviewing anybody at that point in my life. It wasn't even on my radar. And I just tried to make it metaphorical. But as I was getting ready to interview them, I always go over my dream journal from a year ago, and I opened that and I read that dream. I head exploded, like God was showing me my future, and I walked into it. So it let me know I'm doing what God has assigned for me to do right now. And so is that person I'm interviewing, because they're there when God showed me they would be. So
That's so cool. I love it
yeah.
when it does that. And this is the kind of reason why living a supernatural life in regards to how you hear from the Father in dreams and even visions. And the beautiful thing I love about the whole idea of the word of knowledge way that we interpret dreams is it's teaching you to listen to the unctions of the Holy Spirit, or the voice of God, which can help you with everything else that you're doing. Like sometimes God will just give you an unction. And look for opportunities to do that. I mean, put your phone down and know that you have to go somewhere and ask God to show you how to get there instead of pulling up maps, especially if you have plenty of time. And I've done that in situations where it's like, man, my phone died. I got to pick somebody up. I don't have time to go find a place, get a cord, charge it. Like God, you just need to tell me where to go. And he does.
Wow.
And it's
I
amazing.
love it.
It can get you into trouble though. I've had God tell me where people were, and then I show up and they freak out. Like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, you know, just
Stalking you in the spirit.
super hard to explain. It's like, what are you doing here? Well, I just kind of felt that you were going to be here. Like, what? So it's fun, but it's also really, really interesting because it can be such a confirmation of something that God is showing you or them or both, that it's just phenomenal when it's proven to be right. I have a friend that how much can I share? He was the founder of Project Stargate. We don't celebrate Project Stargate because I don't down Project Stargate either. If you don't know what Project Stargate was not a Christian thing. It was the US government's attempt at remote viewing. What happened was in the 1970s, there was a rumor that Russia was using psychics to spy in the United States. And so the story goes, the Central Intelligence Agency went to SRI, Stanford Research Institute, and talked to now a friend of mine who's a physicist there, and said, hey, we heard that Soviet Union is spying on us using spies. Like, that's wrong, right? Like, they can't do that, right? Well, so they launched a program to prove the theory wrong. The program hung around for 20 years at SRI, and then it was dissolved. But it's really interesting because this guy's sharing with me all the successes, and we saw this, and we found this airplane, and we knew about the development of the Seawolf submarine because of this, and we saw this happen, and And I looked at him and I said, one would think if you had all these successes in working at the highest levels of government and military with this level of an intelligence capability, that you wouldn't disband the program, but that you would actually bring the program internally to whatever agency was that would use it. And the guy smiled at me real big and he goes, one would think, which tells me they didn't shut it down. They internalized it so they could run it themselves, which is super interesting because I've heard other people then that have who are in the federal intelligence community who know of these programs, and these programs are not, you know, highly confidential anymore. There's been books written on them. Phenomena is a book that I read written on them. You can watch the movie Third Eye Spies. My friend is in Third Eye Spies. The lab that he's talking about, where he's giving all the information. I've been to that lab. So it's just really, really interesting. But the reason that I brought that up, why did I bring that up? Oh, I brought that up because I asked him while he was sharing with me, here's what we did, and then this happened and that happened. I started sharing with him, hey, well, here's a situation where somebody had a dream, and then here's what happened. And his mind is blown just as much as I'm looking at what he's doing. I'm like, this is incredible. He's looking at what we're doing, and he's like, that is amazing. And then he tells me a story about a really good friend of his who went to work for the Central Intelligence Agency for a dream program. And basically, there was a general, somebody had a dream. I think it was the guy that headed up this program, had a dream that a general was going to get, high-level general, 3-star, I think, or above, was going to get kidnapped in the Middle East by terrorists. And 48 hours later, a 3-star general went missing in the Middle East. And they worked for, I don't know, I think it was a couple of years trying to find this guy and locate this guy. And at the end of the day, they found parts of his body in a shallow grave like 5 years later. And they were so frustrated that why would we get a dream that happens 48 hours later, but gave us no information to prevent it, to find him, to rescue him, to do this, to that, you know. And my immediate thought was, though I don't know that this guy knew, I don't even know if I asked him, was like, well, did they use interpreters? Because again, another friend of mine that I've done some close things with has a database of a whole lot of dreams and works with a data scientist on looking at a lot of these dreams. And the several doctorate degree data scientists from both the NSA, the National Security Agency, and MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, got together to observe the data set. And after spending 2 weeks on the data set, you know what they found? Nothing. Because they couldn't say a car always means ministry, because it does not. And they couldn't say grapes always mean a number of days like it did for the cupbearer. So it's a fluid language with a fluid level of interpretation. So you can't institutionalize the language. That's why I say it's double encrypted. God sends you the dream and the dream is encrypted, but the key to unlock the dream is encrypted as well. It's ever changing. And so you have to go back to the source to give you the keys to unlock it. And that's the whole exchange between it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, is the glory of kings to search a matter out. Or like Daniel said in Daniel 2:22, he knows the deep or he reveals the deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. And then Jesus, when they asked, why do you speak to us in parables? He gave us a wink. He said, the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, but not to them. And then he relates it to the call of Isaiah in Isaiah 6, which is about see, hear, and understand. It's about observation, revelation, and then transformation, which we've talked about before. But I just think it's fascinating that there's pieces of this that people can catch and be like, man, I want to bottle that up. We need that program. But then they don't have the relationship, or they don't have the knowledge of how God actually speaks. And so they think every single dream is literal, and they very quickly get frustrated with that premise because it's not the case. But it's also like saying everything in a dream dictionary I think I shared before, we had a friend that in order to, because they kept hearing me talk about kind of knocking dream dictionaries just because I haven't had a lot of success with them. And they wanted to see if I was right. And so they took the dream of the baker in the Bible and they went to one of the most common, most well sold dream dictionaries, and they interpreted, 3 different baskets, 3 meaning Trinity, baskets of abundance on your head, meaning prosperity, meaning abundance, meaning blessing, birds eating, meaning a wide spread of the blessings that God had given you. And nope, 3 days later, the guy was dead with his head on a spike. Like, just doesn't relate, So in this particular dream, and when we can discern that a dream is more literal, particularly about a divine appointment, you're done. You don't need to say, well, I think the dream, you were moving to the left from the right because there's a political component to the sports hall or to her 3 or 4 kids. Calm down. It isn't always that complicated. And when you're talking about a series of dreams that we know, now, not everything in your first 2 dreams happened exactly like you saw it. But it's enough for you to know that this is this. And then what happens is then you look into the anomalies. Well, she was there, but then she was gone, and I didn't get to talk to her. Or it was a lady in a burqa as opposed to 2 gentlemen in dark hoodies. Okay, well, why would God do that? Because he was showing you, as we clearly find in the first session of these first 2 dreams, is he was showing you the spiritual component as well as the natural component. And you identified, well, the one in the dark hoodie is this, and the one in the gray hoodie is something else, where we believe that to be the spiritual component that was clearly this lady was talking to somebody or manifesting something or whatever. And so God was showing you what she was troubled with and what she was by, and that helps you to be able to discern what God is showing you right at that moment, at that timestamp, at that place, what is going on.
Amazing. That's amazing.
I had a feeling that you getting to see that young girl playing the violin and you felt the beauty was kind of like showing you the fruit that this woman has put into her children. So that it just explains volumes about her to someone you've never really met yet.
Yeah. It's amazing because, again, you're picking up on that. I don't know again, my turn, like, how do I say this without giving it away? I've been blessed. I have mentioned this before, that there's an event in the future that I'm going to, and I feel it's related to that. And again, I'm not saying I'm going to find a lady there, and everything we've gone through, but I feel that there's a connection here in regards to location where this, whatever and who the interaction is going to be, it's going to be at this event, this location. So I will give you an update as and when I can. But again, trying to do this without giving too much information away. I honestly feel you've got John referring back to the 7 layers or multiple layers of things previously. I feel this is to it as well, because it does have that. It's not natural for me where I can express myself like that or recall feeling anything of those emotions to that level without knowing someone. Do you know what I'm like? I didn't know. I don't know the person. Don't know the lady. Didn't know the kids. But there was just this yearning, a yearning that's so alien to me. It's not natural to me. So, and again, it was this kind of father. It was this protector, provider. I know, like, I was comforted to be around them. I was entertained. It was everything that I wanted and more. But again, it was expressed in those 2 emotions that come up. But that's not something that I've experienced. It's not. So, but I feel there is this partnership there, And again, the music to me as well, or the violin that's playing, is a frequency.
Oh.
It's a chord that's struck. So it's a frequency and a sound. And I feel that there's something related to that as well. There's a lot there. But again, it was in a dark place, and maybe that's speaking to the now. You're not going to see it until you see it, until you go there, until you walk down that aisle, or get to that location. You're not going to see it. Just like with me having a dream, waking up, and then going and walking down these streets. I didn't see it until I walked in it. So, but yeah, that's it. Very, 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 very interesting insight.
Indeed. All right. Do we want to move on to dream number 4?
Sure. Let's do
Yes.
it.
Right. I would give you a heads up. There's no same lady in this dream.
Ah.
And this is completely the opposite direction. So you understand when I say this. Here we go. I am at a public turnstile, like a train station. It was electric, and you needed to put a ticket into, walk through it. As you did, it would make a clicking noise. There was a man that walks through it, and as he does, there is another man in front of him and is blocking him in the turnstile. They both appear to be civilians. I know the man that is blocking him is a thug. He looks like he could do what he wanted and get away with it. The other man doesn't say anything, but I know he can handle himself. I look at his nose, and it looks like he has been in a few fights before, as he looked like he had a broken nose. I then know he is a boxer. The guy in front starts trying to intimidate me. The guy in front starts to try to intimidate him, bumping him with his chest, then slaps him once around the face. The guy doesn't fight back, yet I know he is capable of doing so. Another man comes from behind him and is now in the same turnstile. Now no one can move. This guy behind then starts complaining. As he starts complaining, the man in the middle turns around and confronts him. He says, "You need to back up." The thug that is now behind the man in the middle slaps him hard around the head, one strike at a time. And the man doesn't respond. He is more focused on the guy that it came from behind him, talking to him and asking him why he feels the need to press in and block him. I then get the feeling that I wanted to get involved and grab the guy behind him, pull him out of the turnstile, and throw him out the way, telling the guy in the middle to knock this guy out regarding the thug that was slapping him. And that's the end of the dream.
Wow. So you weren't one of the men, you were just observing this.
Observing it all the way until the last paragraph, the last sentence there.
And then you wanted to get involved, but you didn't.
Yeah, I wanted to, I didn't do it.
Didn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, this is really interesting. So the first guy goes through and then like stops. The second guy goes right behind him, and then he turns around, slaps him. And then the second guy doesn't do anything. The third guy shows up, presses in on the second guy, and the second guy turns around to confront him, and then the first guy slaps the second guy again, right?
Yeah, because he's got turned his back towards him. Yeah.
Right. So the third guy never hits anybody. It's just the first guy. And the first guy is the thug. The second guy is the victim. And the third guy is like dense or something. We're trying to figure out what the heck he's doing there. But
Yeah.
it doesn't look like the thug and the third guy are in cahoots together. Okay. This guy's just trying to get through the turnstile and wondering why there's traffic.
This is it. So what stands out to me though, John, is when the guy in the middle, so the start of the dream, he walks in the turnstile, the guy in front, that's the thug, just suddenly appears in front of him, like in the turnstile. He wasn't already there. He just appears. He just appears.
Oh, okay.
He's there in front of him.
So why is the guy in the middle attacking the guy who just came up behind him instead of the one who's hitting him and blocking the way?
Well, he doesn't attack him. He just tells him to back up, right?
Yeah, so the guy in the middle gets confronted by the guy in front of him first with a chest bump, because the guy that's in the front appears he can do what he wants to do. Confronts him and tries to intimidate him with a chest pump, and then slaps him around the face once. Then the guy from behind him comes in, presses in. They can't go anywhere. Instead of confronting the guy in the front that's attacking him, like Diana said, he turns around and then confronts the guy behind him saying, "Why are you pressing it?"
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you get any initial thoughts, Diana?
Just that somebody's in the middle of
Mm.
this situation. Kind of reminds me of the other dream that you had about being in the middle.
Mm.
But it's kind of puzzling to me why he's confronting the person who isn't doing the really overt, mean, manipulative, intimidating things. This guy just came up and got in line, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a key word that you just said there, Diana. Get in line. And I heard online. As soon as you said that, I heard online.
Aha.
And Lord, is this referring to, how do I say that? Is this referring to the war, the battle, as, because again, yeah, thank you, Lord, he's just giving me that. Now, he said, look at the word civilians. It's the public. It's the public street. It's the public platform here. And instead of we, the people, going after the real problem that's in front of us, that's blocking the turnstile, like the clicking for us to get ahead, to come out of this, that person in front was physically violent, was physically blocking and stopping, intimidating and being physical. Whereas the guy behind was just words and just being a pain in the backside. So, but the guy chose not to confront the guy in front. He chose to confront the guy at the back. Even though he's capable of fight, he's experienced as well. He's got previous broken noses, which means to me, he's lost some fights before. He's been hit. But has he learned that what you fail at or what you lose previously actually makes you stronger? You can learn from the mistakes or the failures and actually go next time and win the next fight. I don't think he's learned how to do that, and I think because of the intimidation and the physical violence in front, because of past losses, I think he's more comfortable turning his back on that and then confronting the person that isn't physically violent but is just a pain and looks more like a weaker target, something that he would maybe perceive to have more of an advantage of. And I don't know, I keep getting this as well. Three stages.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that means, but I just keep getting that 3 stages.
When you first read the dream, I feel like this is what's happening. We feel it here in America. It's happening in a lot of places. And like you said, the civilians, I feel like, are the general public, or as we would say, we the people. And I feel like it's the criminals and the corrupt that are in the government that have stopped the turnstile and halted the progress
Mm.
and are accosting the people, lying to the people, slapping the people with more taxes and with more higher gas prices. And it's not market forces, it's ignorance. It's probably not even ignorance. I think they're doing it intentionally, but they're putting a lot of pressure and intimidation on the people who just want to get through. They just want to take their turn. They just want to get through. They want access. They have a ticket. They're legal. They're here legally. They're US citizens. They are supposed to be protected and given access and all of that. And their forward momentum has been stopped. And then what comes up from behind them is somebody that wants to press in. Did you see if the third guy had a ticket?
I did not see him have a ticket, no.
Yeah. And I feel like this is what they're intentionally and willfully allowing with a lot of what's happening with from immigration to the protests that are happening on college campuses. And again, I think most, if not all of this is staged theater. But there's forces behind this that are paying these, even if they're actors, to occupy these college campuses. And then there's kids that, like, I don't know if you've seen the video of the guy that's like, look, this is my ID. I'm a UCLA student. I'm trying to get to class and you're preventing me from getting to class. And they just won't even talk to him. And it just baffles me how people don't. I would like, oh, you want to play Red Rover? Okay, let's play. And I would back up a good 20 feet and I would run at full force. And there isn't a group of people on this planet that could stop me if I wanted to get through. And I know because of all the cameras and all this stuff, people aren't choosing violence, and that's good to an extent. But the fact that they've hijacked college campuses, or that they're stealing money that should go to the American people or to veterans, and the government is willingly taking care of them, kicking vets out of hotels and, whatever, to make room for, it's not that they care about these people. Let's make no mistake. The Democratic Party or the government in general absolutely 100% does not care about these people at all. Not a bit, not even a little bit. What they care about is the possibility that they can come in, that they can cause chaos, that will allow them to stay in power, that they can try to make these people, get them to vote illegally, even though they're not US citizens, even though they won't have to show IDs.
Yeah.
And again, it's a ploy. It's a ploy on behalf of a thug, which unfortunately is many of the governments of the world right now are doing this to their people. And it's driven by a cabal or a mafia or a conglomerate of elites that think they know better, and they think they're going to force all of this stuff, everything from their weather modification scientific projects, which have gone awry, and then they want to fly their jets all over the place and charge us more taxes because of their stupidity is screwing up things in the environment. And the guy in the middle just feels the pressure. And he doesn't want to resort to violence. But violence may be exactly what he has to resort to. He may have to get the guy's eyes in front and break his nose and get him the heck out of the way. And this person that's pushing up against him, he may have to give him a good shove and say, you need to back off. But I feel like it's happening economically, it's happening religiously, it's happening with the faith community, where the government is, they're much more apt to go attack conservatives on YouTube than they are to go arrest terrorists that are coming across the border illegally. Like, it's the total flipping around of justice is now injustice. And the people that are stuck in the middle are like, what the heck, man? I can't get a break anywhere. This guy's slapping me and this guy's pressing in, and I'm just trying to get to work or whatever they're trying to do. They have their ticket and they're just trying to get their turn through the turnstile.
Interesting. There's 3 strikes, which talks about, that while the head is turned, there's 3 different strikes, which could be 3 different things that they'll hit us with.
Yeah, because you've got this starts, the guy in the front starts trying to intimidate him, bumping him with his chest, then slaps him once around the face, and then when you carry on, the man comes from behind. The guy then starts complaining. He confronts him. Now the thug that is behind him slaps him hard around the head, 1 strike at a time. So you do have 3 strikes, but the 3rd time he strikes when he has his back towards him, it's 1 strike at a time, which means there's more than 1 strike.
Mhm.
So again, you got the 3 and the 4.